The laughter came before the silence. A sharp metallic crack echoed across the arena as Elias Varn slammed into the floor, the impact rattling through his bones. For a fraction of a second, everything went still. Then the room erupted. Harsh, guttural laughter bounced off the steel walls, echoing again and again until it felt like the ship itself was mocking him. Elias didn't move right away. Not because he couldn't, but because he was. Listening, his breathing, steady as heartbeat, controlled. Pain spread across his ribs like fire, but he ignored it. Still functional, he told himself. Slowly, he pushed himself up. Across from him stood Drogan, massive, towering, covered in dark, jagged scales that reflected the arena lights like broken glass. His claws flexed lazily, as if throwing Elias across the room had required no effort at all. "You're done," Drogan said, his voice low and bored. "Humans don't belong here." More laughter followed. Elias wiped the blood from his lip. With the back of his hand, he looked at it for a moment, then looked back up. "I'm still standing." That only made it worse. One of the hunters barked, barely. Another added, "I give him one mission before he breaks." Probably himself. Drogan stepped closer, looming over him. "You don't have claws, no armor, no instincts. What exactly do you think you bring to this crew?" Elias held his gaze. "I don't quit." For a brief second, something flickered in Drogan's eyes. Then it vanished, replaced by amusement. Before he could respond, a voice cut through the arena like a blade. "Enough." Silence fell instantly. Every head turned. Kareth stepped forward. He didn't laugh, didn't smirk, didn't even look amused. His silver-gray scales were marked with old scars, each one telling a story of something that had tried and failed to kill him. His eyes locked onto Elias, sharp and unreadable. "You've seen enough," Kareth said. "Training is over." The hunters began to disperse, still muttering among themselves. As one passed Elias, he leaned in slightly. "He won't last." Elias didn't respond. He just stood there, breathing, steady. The silent Talon wasn't just a ship. It was a weapon. The corridors were too large, built for bodies far bigger than his own. The walls hummed faintly, like something alive beneath the metal. Every step Elias took echoed just a little too long, as if the ship was listening. He walked alone. A small bag rested against his shoulder. Everything he owned inside it. 2 spare uniforms, a set of tools, and a worn photograph. He didn't take it out, didn't need to. He already knew every detail by heart. A soft beep interrupted his thoughts. His communicator lit up. "JIZU, you actually joined them. Elias Varn, don't take outsiders, especially not humans." He stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, "I'll be fine." He paused, then added, "It's just a job." He didn't say what he was really thinking. "It's my last chance." The moment the ramp opened, the world hit him. Heat slammed into his face. Humidity wrapped around him like a second skin, and gravity crushed down on him like an invisible hand. Elias staggered slightly as his boots touched the ground. "Move," Drogan snapped, already stepping past him. The other hunters followed effortlessly, their powerful bodies adapting without struggle. Elias inhaled slowly, forcing his body to adjust. Heavier, slower, manageable. The jungle stretched endlessly in every direction. Massive trees clawing toward the sky, vines hanging like traps, shadows thick enough to hide anything, and the sounds distant roars. Clicks. Something screaming. Not like prey, like something that didn't die easily. "Welcome to Talvex 9, a voice said beside him. Elias turned. Yra. Her scales were lighter than the others. Her expression, calmer, more observant. "Try not to die in the first hour," she added. There was no sarcasm in her tone. Elias nodded once. "I'll aim for the second hour." A small pause. Then just barely. Elias smirked. The deeper they moved, the quieter it became. Not peaceful, quiet. Wrong quiet. The kind that made the back of your neck tighten. Elias adjusted the heavy supply pack on his shoulders. It dug into him with every step, made worse by the planet's crushing gravity. The Varuun moved ahead like shadows. Silent. Offician. Predators. Elias wasn't watching them. He was watching everything else. The ground, the trees, the patterns, a broken branch to clean, leaves bent in the wrong direction. Footprints, but not leading anywhere. His pace slowed slightly, eyes narrowing. Something's off. He scanned the area again. There are faint impressions in the mud. Not Straight dot, circular dot, like something had been moving around them, not attacking, observing, waiting. His grip tightened on the strap of his pack. "Stop," he said. No one reacted. They kept moving. Elias frowned. Then louder. "Stop." Still nothing. And then the jungle exploded. A massive shape burst from the undergrowth with terrifying speed. Armored plates slamming through branches like they weren't even there. A roar tore through the air, deep, violent, alive. Chaos erupted instantly. Weapons fired. Commands shouted. One of the hunters was struck and thrown into a tree with bone-crushing force. Elias dropped his pack without thinking. His hand moved to his belt, grabbing a flare. No time. He fired it directly into the creature's path. Blinding red light erupted. The beast recoiled, its movements stuttering just enough. Just enough. Now, Crit's voice cut through everything. The hunters reacted instantly, firing in perfect coordination. The creature snarled, then retreated, vanishing back into the jungle as suddenly as it had appeared. Silence followed. Heavy breathing. The smell of burned air. Elias stood there, the flare still smoking in his hand, waiting. No one looked at him. Not Drogan. Not the others. Not even Zero Kareth. Scanned the jungle for a moment longer, then simply said, "Form perimeter," and walked away. Just like that. Elias slowly lowered his hand. The flare burned out completely. Smoke curled into the air, then disappeared. He looked at the jungle again, at the place the creature had come from. His eyes narrowed slightly. That wasn't random. Behind him. The crew began talking again, already moving on, already forgetting. Elias picked up his pack, adjusted the weight, and followed. Quiet, steady, unnoticed. But in the shadows ahead, something was still watching, and this time Elias knew it. The armor was still warm. Elias noticed that first. Not the silence, not the missing body, not even the way the jungle seemed to be holding its breath. Just the heat. He crouched slowly, gloved fingers brushing against the smooth, dark plating, left behind on the forest floor. No damage, no blood, no signs of struggle. Just empty, like the hunter inside had been erased. "Explain this." Drogan's voice cut through the clearing, sharp and irritated, but underneath it, something else lingered. Unease. No one answered. Zyra stepped forward, scanning the area with her handheld device. Its faint hum was the only sound for a few seconds. "No thermal trails," she said quietly. "No movement within 100 meters. That's impossible," another hunter muttered. "It didn't just vanish," Drogan snapped. "Things don't vanish." Elias stood slowly, eyes still scanning. "The trees. They do, if you never see them coming." He didn't say it out loud. Not yet. Instead, he stepped past the abandoned armor, looking deeper into the jungle. The ground was disturbed, but not violently. No dragged marks. No blood splatter. Clean. To clean it. "Didn't attack," Elias said finally. Drogan glanced at him, annoyance flickering. "Brilliant, you've solved it." Elias ignored the sarcasm. It observed first. That got a reaction. Not loud, not dramatic, but subtle. A shift in posture, a pause in movement. Even Kareth, standing slightly apart from the group, tilted, his head just a fraction. "Observed," Zyra repeated. Elias nodded slowly. If it attacked, there would be noise, struggle, something. But this, he gestured toward the armor. This was controlled. Drogan scoffed. "You're guessing." Elias met his gaze. "No." He pointed toward the tree line. "I'm paying attention." The jungle changed after that. Not visibly, not in a way the scanners could detect, but something shifted. The sounds grew inconsistent. Some areas were alive, buzzing, screeching, moving. Others dead quiet, like entire sections of the forest had decided to stop breathing. Elias noticed the pattern. The others didn't, or maybe they refused to. Another hunter disappeared before nightfall. This time, there wasn't even armor left behind, just an empty space in the formation, where someone had been walking seconds before. The reaction was immediate. Weapons raised. Formation tightened. But fear had already slipped in. Silent. Unseen. Just like the thing hunting them that night. No one laughed. The camp was quieter than it should have been. Even Drogan stayed close to the central perimeter, his usual arrogance dulled by something heavier. Elias sat near the edge of the camp, a small patch of dirt in front of him. He drew slowly. Lines. Circles. Paths. ZZ. Yra approached, crouching beside him. "You're mapping something," she said. Elias didn't look up. "Trying to She studied the crude diagram. These are the disappearance points. Elias shook his head. No. He tapped one of the circles. These are observation zones. Zyra frowned. You're assuming a lot. Elias finally looked up. I'm connecting. Patterns, he pointed again. They weren't random targets. They were selected. Based on what? Elias hesitated, then said it. Behavior. A pause. Zyra's expression shifted slightly. You think it's studying us? Elias nodded. I think it's learning. The next morning proved him right. Another hunter vanished. This time, it happened. Within seconds, one moment he was there. The next dash gone. No sound, no warning, just absence. The entire squad froze. Even Drogan didn't speak for the first time since Elias had boarded the silent Talon. No one laughed. Say it. Krith's voice broke the silence. Elias looked up. The captain stood a few meters away. Eyes locked onto him. You have a theory, Krith continued. Elias exhaled slowly. They're not hunting us. A ripple of confusion spread. Drogan frowned. Then what do you call this? Elias met his gaze. We're being tested. Silence. Krith didn't interrupt. Didn't dismiss. He just listened. It watch us how you move, Elias continued. How you track, how you react. Then it adapts. That's not how prey works, Drogan snapped. Elias shook his head. It's not prey. Another pause. He let the words settle. It's a hunter. Krith stepped closer. Solution. Not a question. A command. Elias glanced around the group at the tension, at the fear they were trying to hide. Then back at Krith. We stopped being predictable. Drogan crossed his arms. Meaning. Elias stood. Meaning we stop acting like hunters. That got their attention. All your movements are structured, Elias explained. Fission repeated. It's learning those patterns. So what? Drogan challenged. We move randomly and hope for the best. Elias shook his head. No. He looked directly at Krith. We make it curious. The idea was simple. Dangerously simple. Elias would move alone. Break formation. Break rhythm. No pattern. No predictability if it's studying us. He said then we give it something it doesn't understand. Drogan scoffed. And if you're wrong? Elias shrugged slightly. Then you lose the weakest member of your crew. A few hunters exchanged glances. For the first time. No one laughed. Krith studied him for a long moment. Then nodded once. Do it. The jungle felt different when he was alone. Heavier. Closer. Like he was watching him breathe. Elias moved slowly. Deliberately uneven. Sometimes fast. Sometimes stopping completely. Changing direction without reason. No pattern, no logic. Minutes passed. Then a sound. Soft. Behind him. He didn't turn. Didn't react. Just kept walking. There you are. Another sound closer. This time, branches shifting. Weight moving. Watching. Elias slowed his breathing. Let his body relax. Not pray. He stopped suddenly. Then turned. It was massive. Larger than anything they had. Described armored in layered plates that looked almost organic. Its eyes locked onto him. Not wild. Not mindless. Focused, calculating. It didn't attack. Didn't move. It just watched. Elias tilted his head slightly. You're learning, he whispered. The creature shifted its stance. Mirroring him. A chill ran down his spine. Back in the trees. Hidden among the shadows, Krith observed through long-range optics. He didn't speak. Didn't move. But something in his expression changed. For the first time. Not doubt. Not curiosity. Something deeper. Recognition. Elias took a slow step backward. The creature didn't chase. Didn't strike. It simply watched. As if deciding. As if choosing. Elias lowered his gaze slightly. Not submission. Not fear. Something else. Understanding. Double quotes. Yeah, he murmured. You're not just hunting us. The jungle remained silent. But now the silence meant something. And for the first time since the mission began, Elias wasn't the weakest thing in the jungle. He was the only one who understood it. It happened in silence. No warning, no argument, no dramatic betrayal. Just absence. Elias didn't notice it immediately. At first it was just the sound, or rather the lack of it. The steady rhythm of footsteps behind him. Gone. He stopped walking. The jungle pressed in around him, thick and suffocating. Moist air clung to his skin. Somewhere far away, something shrieked. But nearby, nothing. Too quiet. Elias slowly turned. The path behind him was empty. No Varun. No Drogan. No see a single quote Aretha. No one, just broken foliage, already settling back into place. For a moment, he said nothing, did nothing. Then, softly, right. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Not surprised, not angry, just understanding. They left me. He checked his communicator. No signal. Of course, Talvex-9 didn't allow easy communication. Or maybe they had turned it off. Elias exhaled slowly, adjusting the straps of his pack. Okay, he muttered under his breath. Then it's just me. No panic, no shouting, no wasted energy. Just acceptance. Because deep down, he had expected this. The jungle wasn't just hostile, it was alive. Everything moved, everything watched. The ground shifted underfoot, soft and unstable. Vines brushed against his arms like curious fingers. The air itself felt heavy, thick enough to slow every breath. Elias walked. Not fast, not slow, steady. He scanned everything. Not like a hunter, like prey that refused to die. Hours passed, the light dimmed slightly as thick clouds rolled overhead. Then came the rain. It didn't fall. It slammed. Heavy drops struck the canopy above, leaking through in sharp bursts. Within minutes, Elias was soaked. The water burned slightly against his skin. Acidic. Double quote, so of course it is. He murmured. He didn't stop, didn't complain. He just adjusted. By the time darkness began to fall, Elias had found a rocky out, large enough to provide partial cover. Not perfect, but enough. He moved quickly, breaking branches, weaving vines, layering leaves. His hands worked automatically, muscle memory guiding him. Old training, old instincts, the kind that didn't rely on technology, the kind that Varuun didn't understand. Within an hour, a crude shelter stood against the rock face. Water slid off the leaf-covered roof. The inside remained mostly dry. Elias stepped back, examining it. Good enough. He ducked inside, sat down, closed his eyes, and for the first time since they left him, he allowed himself a single thought. You're still alive. Miles away. The Varuun crew was no longer laughing. Another hunter had gone missing. Then another. Formation had tightened. Their confidence fractured. This is wrong, one of them muttered. No patterns, another added. No logic. Drogan snarled, frustration building. It's an animal. Kareths didn't respond, because he knew animals didn't do this. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a quiet realization began to form. The human saw this first. Back in the jungle, Elias moved again at dawn. The rain had stopped, but the world felt heavier, quieter. Watching, he crouched near a patch of disturbed ground, fresh tracks deep. Circular movement again. But now he noticed something new. Spacing, rhythm. It wasn't random. It was controlled. Elias traced one of the prints with his fingers. You're not chasing, he whispered. He stood slowly, eyes narrowing. You're herding. A chill ran through him. Not fear, understanding. That's when he felt it. Not heard. Felt. A presence stopped behind him. Watching. Elias didn't turn, didn't run. He just kept walking. One step. Then another. Breathing slow, controlled. Don't act like prey. The jungle shifted slightly. A shadow moved between the trees. Massive. Silent. Matching his pace. Elias changed direction. Suddenly the shadow adjusted. He stopped. It stopped. A faint smirk crossed his face. Got you. Back at the Varuun camp, tension was breaking. We need to fall back, one hunter insisted. We're being picked apart, another added. Drogan slammed his claw into a tree. We are not retreating from an animal. Before anyone could respond, a sound cut through the jungle. Soft. Measured. Footsteps. All. Weapons raised instantly. Eyes locked onto the tree line. A shape emerged slowly through the mist. For a split second, everyone tested. Then the human. Elias stepped into view, covered in mud, clothes torn, face calm. Behind him, the jungle shifted. Something large moved, just out of sight. Watching, waiting. Elias stopped a few meters from the group. You're being followed, he said simply. Silence. Drogan stared at him. You should be dead. Elias shrugged slightly. Not today. Kareth stepped forward. His eyes moved from Elias to the jungle behind him, then back. You found it? Elias shook his head. No. A small pause. Then it found you. For the first time since the mission began, no one spoke over him. No one mocked him. No one laughed. Because something had changed. Not in Elias, he was the same, calm, quiet, enduring, but now they were the ones being hunted, and the only one who seemed to understand it was the one they left behind. Kareth studied him carefully, longer than before, deeper, as if seeing something new, or maybe something he should have seen from the start. Elias adjusted his pack again. The weight didn't feel as heavy anymore, not because it changed, but because something else had. He glanced once more at the jungle, at the unseen presence moving just beyond sight, then back at the crew. "You move like hunters," he said quietly. A pause. "Then that's why it keeps finding you." The wind shifted. Leaves are a stilet. And somewhere in the distance, something moved closer. The storm didn't arrive gradually. It struck. Without warning, the sky cracked open, and rain slammed down through the jungle like falling glass. Within seconds, the ground turned to mud, visibility dropped, and the world became a blur of motion and noise. But the storm wasn't. The real danger was already inside the group. "Hold formation," Drogan shouted, his voice barely cutting through the chaos. The Varuun tightened their positions, weapons raised, eyes scanning through sheets of rain. Elias stood slightly behind them, soaked, silent, watching. Not the jungle, the crew. Their movements had changed, faster, sloppier. Fear, disguised as aggression. Their breaking at sudden crack echoed through the trees. Not thunder, something else. "Contact!" One of the hunters yelled. A massive shape burst through the rain faster than before. More aggressive. The creature had learned it didn't charge blindly this time. It targeted a hunter on the flank. Too slow to react, too exposed. The impact was brutal. Armor shattered. The hunter slammed into the ground, motionless. "Fall back," Zira shouted, but it was already too late. The creature vanished. Again, into the storm. Silence followed. Heavy. Uneasy. The rain kept falling, washing over the still body lying in the mud. No one moved toward him. Not at first. They gathered around the fallen hunter slowly. Zira knelt beside him, scanning. Her expression hardened. "He's gone." No dramatic reaction, no shouting. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that sinks into your bones. Drogan turned away sharply, claws flexing. He hesitated. He muttered, "Weakness." Elias looked at him. For the first time, there was no calm in his eyes, or bad leadership. "Elias," said quietly. The words landed harder than the storm. Every head turned. Drogan stepped forward instantly. "What did you say?" Elias didn't back down. "You're forcing them into patterns," he continued. "Tight formations, predictable movement. That thing knows exactly where to hit." Drogan's expression darkened. "You think you know better?" Elias met his gaze. "I know we're losing." Silence. The rain filled the space between them. For a moment, it felt like something was about to snap. Drogan moved closer, towering over him. "You speak like you understand hunting," he growled. "But you're still alive, because we allowed it." Elias tilted his head slightly. "No," he said calmly. "I'm alive because I adapted." That did it. Drogan's claws shot forward, but stopped inches from Elias's throat. Not because he changed his mind, because Kareth was suddenly there, standing between them. Enough. The word wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Drogan hesitated, then slowly pulled back. His eyes never left Elias. "This isn't over," he said. Elias didn't respond, because it wasn't a threat. It was a fact. That night, the storm didn't stop. The camp was barely holding together. Makeshift shelters strained under the relentless rain. Equipment malfunctioned. Visibility was almost zero. The crew huddled together, quieter than ever, but something had changed. Not completely, not yet, but cracks had formed. Doubt had slipped in. Elias sat near the edge again, checking his gear. ZYRA approached, crouching beside him. "You shouldn't have said that," she said quietly. Elias didn't look up. Someone had to. She studied him for a moment. "You're not like them," she said. "No," Elias replied simply. A small pause. "Maybe that's why you're still alive." Elias allowed himself the faintest hint of a smile. "Or maybe I'm just harder to kill than I look." This time Zira almost laughed out later that night. Elias stepped away from the camp, not far, just enough to breathe. The rain had softened slightly, turning from violent sheets into a steady downpour. The jungle felt different, calmer, but not safe. Never safe. He moved slowly, scanning the darkness. Then he saw it, a shadow between the trees, watching the creature, closer than before, closer than it had ever been. Elias didn't reach for his weapon, didn't run. He just stood there, breathing, waiting. This is it. The creature shifted slightly, testing him. Elias took a small step back. Not fear, space. Acknowledgement. Double quotes. I know what you're doing, he said quietly. The creature didn't respond. Didn't need to. It already knew. Back at the camp, Drogan noticed Elias was gone. Where is he? He demanded. No one answered immediately. Then I think he stepped out, Zyra said. Drogan snarled. Of course he did. He grabbed his weapon. I'll bring him back. Kurth didn't stop him, didn't follow. He just watched, because something told him this moment mattered. Drogan found Elias quickly, standing in the open, facing the jungle. What are you doing? Drogan snapped. Elias didn't turn. Learning, Drogan scoffed. From what? The thing trying to kill us? Elias finally looked at him. No, he said. From the thing reacting to us. A pause. Drogan frowned. You're losing your mind. Elias shook his head. No. He glanced back toward the shadows. I'm finally understanding it. For a brief moment the creature shifted again. Closer. Drogan. Saw it this time. Really saw it. And for the first time, he didn't charge, didn't attack. He hesitated just for a second. But it was enough. That hesitation changed everything. Because now they both saw it. Not as prey. Not as a target, but as something else. Something thinking. Something choosing. Drogan tightened his grip on his weapon. Elias slowly lowered his own. Don't, Elias said quietly. Drogan glanced at him. You'd let it live. Elias met his gaze. I'd understand it first. The rain fell between them. The creature remained in the shadows, watching, waiting. Waiting, and in that moment, the hunt shifted. Not completely, but enough, because the strongest hunter in the group had just hesitated, and the weakest had just taken control. The jungle did not breathe, it watched. That was the first thing Elias realized as he stood alone at the edge of the ravine. The rest of the crew's presence long gone behind him. The air was thick-wood heavy, almost intelligent. Every leaf seemed to tilt slightly toward him, every shadow stretching just a fraction too far. This wasn't a test of strength. It was something else, and Kurth knew it. Track it. Kurth had said earlier, his voice cold, unreadable, alone. No backup, no safety net. No weapons beyond a standard pulse blade and a half-charged scanner. Drogan had smirked when he heard the order, finally cleaning out dead weight. Zyra hadn't said anything, but her eyes followed Elias longer than the others. Concern, maybe even belief. But Elias didn't look back, because deep down, he understood something the others didn't. This wasn't punishment. This was observation. The jungle floor was soft. Beneath his boots, layers of decaying organic matter sinking. With each step, gravity pressed down harder here, heavier than before, as if the planet itself was trying to crush him into submission. His muscles screamed. His lungs burned, but his pace never broke. Step, breathe. Step, breathe. Rhythm over speed, endurance over force. He crouched low, near a broken cluster of foliage. Not torn, bent. That mattered. His fingers brushed a leaf still damp, still recovering shape. Recent, very recent. But there was something off. No signs of struggle. No scattered debris. No blur. This wasn't an attack path. It was a patrol. Elias frowned slightly, his mind already assembling patterns. This isn't random. He whispered it under his breath, almost instinctively. The creature wasn't hunting blindly. It was moving with purpose. Hours passed. The light shifted from dim green to deep shadow. The canopy above swallowing what little sunlight dared to enter. Strange calls echoed in the distance. Some animal, or something pretending to be one. Elias didn't chase the sounds. He ignored them. Because predators lie, but patterns don't. He reached a narrow clearing. Water pooled in the center, reflecting the twisted shapes of trees above. Tracks surrounded it, but not the chaotic mess of a feeding ground. These were controlled. Measured. Circular. Like something moving around the water, not toward it, guarding it. Elias slowly stood, his eyes narrowing. Territory. It clicked. Everything did. The attack patterns, the disappearance zones, the way the creature avoided direct confrontation unless provoked. It wasn't hunting. It was defending. A low rumble rolled through the air. Elias froze. Not fear. Stillness. There was a difference. The sound came again, closer now. Deep. Resonant. Not aggressive. Warning. Slowly. Deliberately. Elias lowered himself to one knee. Not submission. Non-threat posture. His hand moved away from his blade. Open. Visible. Branches. Shifted ahead. Then silence. Then it emerged. Massive. Armored plates. Layered across its body like living steel. Its eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. Intelligent. Calculating. Not wild. Not mindless. Aware. It stepped forward. Slow and deliberate. Its gaze locked onto Elias. Every instinct screamed at him to run. Every survival reflex demanded action. But Elias stayed still, because running triggers pursuit, and fear feeds predators. The creature stopped, just meters away, close enough for Elias to see the subtle movements of its chest, the slight tremor in its stance. Not aggression. Tension. Behind it. Faint movement. Small. Three shapes. Cubs. Hidden in the shadows. Elias exhaled slowly. There it is. The truth. It wasn't a monster. It was apparent. For a long moment neither moved. The jungle held its breath. Then slowly, the creature shifted. Not forward. Not attacking. Sideways, creating space. Watching, testing. Elias didn't speak. Didn't move. Didn't challenge. Minutes passed like hours. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature turned and disappeared back into the jungle. Elias remained there, still kneeling, long after it was gone. Not out of fear, out of respect. When he finally stood, something had changed. Not just in the hunt, in him. By the time he returned to camp, the crew was already on edge, weapons drawn, tension thick. Drogan stepped forward immediately. Well, did you die and forget? Elias ignored him. His eyes went straight to Kareth. It's not hunting us. Silence. Kareth's gaze sharpened slightly. Pix plain. Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. It's territorial. Defensive. The attack zones match a perimeter, not a hunting path. Drogan scoffed. You expect us to believe you talk to it? No, Elias replied simply. I watched it. He knelt, drawing a rough map in the dirt. Water source here. Tracks circle outward. No direct kill paths unless something crosses into the center. Zyra leaned in slightly, studying the pattern. He's right, she murmured. These aren't predatory routes. Drogan shook his head aggressively. This is ridiculous. It killed hunters. Elias met his gaze, because they walked into its territory. That hit harder than any accusation because it wasn't emotional. It was logical. Reth said nothing for a long moment. Then you saw it. Yes. And you're alive. Yes. A flicker of something passed through Kareth's eyes. Not doubt. Not disbelief. Recognition. Double quotes. What did it do? Elias paused briefly, then answered honestly. It chose not to kill me. Silence fell across the camp. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Because that truth changed everything. Drogan muttered something under his breath, turning away. But others, they looked at Elias differently now. Not with respect. Not yet. But no longer with dismissal. Kareth stepped closer, his presence commanding. You were sent to track a target. Elias held his gaze. I did. And your conclusion? Elias didn't hesitate. It's not a threat, unless we make it one. Another pause. Longer this time. Then Kareth nodded. One slow, deliberate, not agreement, but acceptance of possibility. Rest, he said finally. We move at first light. As the crew dispersed, Zyra approached Elias quietly. You could have killed it. Elias shook his head slightly. It didn't need killing. She studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. That night, Elias sat alone near the edge of camp. The jungle no longer felt hostile. Still dangerous, still unpredictable, but not evil above him. The canopy shifted slightly, revealing fragments of distant stars. For the first time since the mission began, he didn't feel like prey, or an outsider, or even the weakest one. On the ship, he felt something else, something the others were just beginning to understand. Not all hunters kill. Some learn, some endure, some choose. And sometimes that choice is what makes them the most dangerous of all. The first sign wasn't sound. It was silence. Not the natural stillness of a predator waiting in the dark, but a sharp, unnatural cut in the jungle's rhythm. The insects stopped. The distant calls vanished. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Elias felt it before he understood it. Something New had entered the food chain. Kareth raised a hand instantly, and the entire crew froze. Predators didn't ignore signs like this. They became stillness. Then, a low vibration rolled through the ground. Not from the creature, from the sky. Elias looked up just as the clouds split apart. 3 ships. Angular. Metallic. Armed. Not hunters. Invaders. They're not guild, Zyra whispered, her scanner flickering. No registration. No signal codes. Drogan's expression darkened. Mercenaries. The ships descended fast, tearing through the canopy, crushing trees as they forced landing space into existence. Engines screamed. Heat scorched the ground. Leaves turned to ash before they even touched soil. This wasn't precision. This was dominance. Positions, Kareth ordered calmly, but his voice had changed. Tighter. Sharper. Because this wasn't a hunt anymore. Ramp slammed down. Boots hit the ground. Heavy. Confident. Too many. At least 20. Fully armed. Elias counted without thinking. Angles. Weapons. Movement patterns. These weren't amateurs. They moved like people who had done this before, too many times. Then he saw him. A human. Tall. Scar across his jaw. Armor worn like a second skin. Relaxed posture. Smiling. Like he already owned the outcome. Well, the man called out casually, stepping forward. If it isn't Kareth, didn't expect competition out here. His voice carried easily through the jungle. Confident. Arrogant. Kareth didn't move. This territory is under contract. The man laughed. Everything is under contract. Depends who pays more. His eyes shifted and locked onto Elias, and his smile widened. Elias Varn. The name hit like a memory dragged into the present. Elias didn't react outwardly, but inside recognition burned. Still playing soldier, the man continued. Or are you finally ready to make real money? Drogan glanced between them. You know this human, Elias answered. Quietly. I know what he is. The man placed a hand on his chest, mockingly. Doran. Freelancer. Problem solver. Opportunity creator. His gaze flicked toward the ravine. Word travels fast. War beast territory. Cubs too, I hear. The air shifted. Even the jungle seemed to recoil at the word. Cubs. Kareth's voice dropped lower. They are not part of this mission. Doran shrugged. They are now. Behind him, his crew spread out, efficient and calculated, already mapping angles, setting lines, controlling space. This wasn't negotiation. It was a setup. Elias stepped forward before he fully realized he was moving. Don't. Just one word. Quiet. But it cut through everything. Doran tilted his head. Don't. What? Elias met his gaze. You go in there, you won't just be killing a target. Doran smirked. I know exactly what I'll be killing. No, Elias said. Firmer now. You'll be killing something defending its young. A pause, then laughter. Not just Doran, all of them. Listen to him, one mercenary muttered. He's bonding with the wildlife. Doran stepped closer, lowering his voice. You've always had this problem, Elias. Thinking things matter. He leaned in slightly. Out here, only profit matters. Elias didn't move, didn't step back, didn't flinch. Step aside, Doran said quietly. Take the offer. Walk away richer. A beat. Or stand there and become collateral. Silence fell, heavy and waiting. Elias glanced back briefly at Kareth, at Zyra, at the crew that had mocked him, doubted him, and slowly started to change. Then he turned back and stepped forward, positioning himself between the mercenaries and the ravine. I'm not moving. That was it. No speech, no anger, just certainty. For a moment, even the jungle seemed surprised. Drogan hissed under his breath. Are you insane? Elias didn't answer, because this wasn't about them anymore. This was about a line, and once drawn it couldn't be erased. Doran's smile faded just enough. You're serious? Elias nodded once. Doran exhaled slowly, then lifted his weapon, casual and effortless. Last chance. No one moved. No one spoke. Then a shift, subtle but undeniable. Kareth stepped forward. He didn't look at Elias, didn't acknowledge him. He simply moved until he stood beside him. A line you go through him, Kareth said quietly, his voice like steel wrapped in calm. You go through me. Everything stopped. Doran blinked once. Actually blinked. You're choosing him? He asked. Kareth didn't answer. Behind them Zyra stepped forward. Then another. Then another. Even Drogan hesitated, then growled under his breath and joined the line. 8 hunters, 1 human, standing together. Doran looked at them for a long moment, then shook his head slowly. This is bad business. He raised his hand. Take them. And just like that, the jungle exploded. Energy fire ripped through the air. Trees shattered. Ground tore apart. Elias moved instantly, not forward, not charging, but sideways into cover. His mind didn't panic, didn't freeze. It calculated. Angles, timing, weak points. A mercenary rushed him fast. Too fast. Elias dropped low, letting momentum work against the attacker. A quick shift, weight, leverage. He redirected the charge. The mercenary slammed into a tree, hard. Elias didn't hesitate. Disarmed, disabled, moved on. Around him, chaos. Karith moved like something ancient and precise. Every shot counted, every movement intentional. Zyra covered flanks. Drogan fought like a storm unleashed, but there were too many. They're pushing us back, someone shouted. And then a sound. A roar. Not distant, not hidden, right behind them. Everything froze for half a second. Then the jungle itself seemed to split open. The creature emerged, massive, furious, protective. It didn't choose sides, it chose threat. And the biggest threat was the mercenaries. It charged. The ground shook. Men scattered. Screams cut through gunfire. Doran cursed, backing away. Fall back. Fall. Too late. The formation broke. Discipline collapsed. Within seconds they were retreating, running. Not hunters anymore. Prey. Their ships lifted in chaos, barely escaping as the creature roared beneath them, claiming its ground. Silence returned slowly. Elias stood there, breathing hard, weapon lowered. The creature turned, looked at him, at the others, but didn't attack, because something had changed. Not in it, in them. For the first time they hadn't come to conquer. They had chosen to protect. And somehow, the jungle understood that. The air was thick with tension, like a rope pulled tight and ready to snap. Flames from smoldering trees reflected across Karith's angular armor. But his gaze wasn't on the destruction, it was on Elias. Every muscle in Elias's body was coiled, not with fear, but with calculation. They had survived mercenaries, hostile worlds, and apex predators, but nothing tested them like what was about to unfold. Karith stepped forward slowly, deliberately, until he was shoulder to shoulder with Elias. The aliens around them stiffened, senses and eyes adjusting. You go through him, Karith said quietly, almost reverently. You go through me. The word hung in the air. Brother. Elias froze for a heartbeat, feeling the weight of it, not just a declaration, but a covenant. The rest of the crew looked at him and then at Karith, their expressions a mixture of surprise, suspicion, and awe. Drogan scowled. Brother, he muttered. He's human. Kareth's eyes didn't waver. He's earned it, he said. A subtle but unmistakable line had been drawn. And then it began. The enemy after their failed assault charged with renewed force, thinking to overwhelm the crew now, but they weren't facing a scattered group. They were facing unity. Elias didn't fight like the others. He didn't rely on brute strength or armor. Instead, he moved with observation, intuition, and timing. He disabled mechanisms, tripped lines, redirected energy, and used the terrain to his advantage. One mercenary aimed a plasma cannon too close, only for Elias to drop, roll, and let the blast strike a tree that crashed down, blocking the rest. Every movement he made was precise. Every decision saved lives. Karith fought beside him like a shadow of lethal calm. Where Elias was unpredictable, Karith was methodical, and together they formed an unbroken line. Zyra moved like a protective wave, covering gaps, tending wounds without breaking rhythm. Drogan's aggression was tempered by necessity, the old predator instincts bending to strategy rather than ego. The mercenaries' confidence began to crumble. They had underestimated one human and now underestimated the bond between a human and an elite hunter. And yet, in the midst of fire and chaos, there was a pause. A mercenary swung wildly, trying to take Elias from behind. A split-second decision. Elias didn't dodge. Instead, he baited, feinting weakness. The mercenary overextended, and Karith struck him down with surgical precision. Elias realized the beauty of this battle was no longer a survival of the fittest. It was orchestration, coordination, trust. Trust he hadn't expected to earn in this alien warship, this hostile jungle. A sudden roar split the chaos. The creature they had protected, massive and furious, had joined. It didn't attack the humans aligned with them. It attacked the intruders. Plasma blasts ricocheted. Trees fell. Mercenaries scattered like leaves in a storm. Elias ducked low behind a mangled vehicle, heart hammering, adrenaline sharp, yet every decision was calm. He moved where others couldn't see, cutting off flanks, disarming ambushes, and channeling danger into predictable paths. Kreth's voice broke through the roar. Hold the line. Elias felt a strange warmth of recognition, not of rank or power, but of brotherhood, of shared survival. That warmth anchored him. Hours or maybe minutes later, the field fell silent except for crackling embers and distant groans. The mercenaries had retreated, leaving behind wreckage, shattered pride, and a lesson they would never forget. The jungle exhaled. The creatures that had once been prey or predator now observed a new order. Elias stood among them, chest heaving, eyes scanning the horizon. Kurth clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder. "Brother," he said again, more softly this time. The word wasn't just repetition. It was acceptance, acknowledgement, and a bond that transcended species, history, and prejudice. Around them, the crew began to relax. They looked at Elias not with doubt, not with mockery, but with respect. Even Drogan reluctantly gave a nod. Elias realized in that moment that battles weren't always fought with weapons or claws. They were fought with courage, intellect, and loyalty. The field was quiet now, but the weight of the day lingered. Every scar, every mark, every motion of survival was etched into memory. And in the midst of that quiet, Elias felt something extraordinary. Belonging. Kareth's gaze lingered on him. "Brother," he said one last time. Not command, not plea, not statement. Simply truth. Elias smiled faintly, the corners of his mouth barely moving. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't arrogance. It was acknowledgement. A human standing among hunters, not as a curiosity, but as an equal. Together, they turned toward the horizon, ready for whatever came next. The universe had shifted slightly on its axis. One human had walked through fire, fought beside the best, and was called brother. The word, heavy with meaning, carried beyond. Then through the jungle, through the stars, through every eye that watched. From that day forward, nothing would ever look at humans the same way again. The clearing was silent, almost reverent. Smoke from smoldering fires twisted lazily into the sky, carrying with it the tank of ozone and scorched foliage. Elias's chest heaved not from exertion, but from the weight of what he now faced. Across the clearing, the creature emerged, massive and terrifying, yet eerily still. Its eyes, intelligent and observant, fixed on him. The mercenaries had fled. The battlefield was quiet except for the low hum of the creature's movements. Kareth's voice was a whisper in Elias's mind. "Remember what we fought for." The rest of the crew spread around him, tense, weapons raised, but waiting. Everyone expected aggression. Everyone expected the fight to resume. But the creature didn't move like an attacker. It studied, circling slowly, nostrils flaring as if assessing the very nature of the humans before it. Elias froze, feeling the raw power of judgment in its gaze. The instinct to raise his weapons surged a lifetime of combat training, of survival. Instinct screamed at him to strike first. But he didn't. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his rifle, letting it hang loose in his hands. Every heartbeat stretched into eternity. "I'm not a threat," he thought. "I never was." A ripple of tension passed through the crew. Zira's hand hovered over her sidearm. Drogan's jaw tightened. Kurth's eyes never left Elias's movements. Silence stretched like a taut wire, vibrating with anticipation. The creature stopped, tilting its massive head as if confused by the absence of aggression. Its breathing was slow, deliberate. Then, almost imperceptibly, it took a step back. Elias's mind raced, mapping every possibility, calculating every reaction. He felt no triumph, no relief, only clarity. This moment, this pause, was a choice. The choice of mercy. He could have destroyed the creature, killed it, as others might have. But that wasn't the path. Not now. Not ever. Slowly, he gestured to the crew. His movements subtle, almost imperceptible. Weapons lowered. One by one, the humans complied, trusting him, trusting the understanding that had grown silently over weeks of shared trials. The creature's massive limbs shifted, and then, in a gesture that would have seemed impossible, it bowed its head, slyly a sign, perhaps, of acknowledgement, or recognition, or respect. Elias exhaled quietly, a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The tension that had wrapped around every nerve loosened slightly, and for the first time in hours, the jungle felt alive rather than hostile. Kareth approached, silent and deliberate, watching the interaction between human and apex predator. "You understand?" he said softly, almost to himself. Elias nodded, the corners of his mouth twitching in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. It wasn't victory in the traditional sense. It was something more profound: restraint, understanding, coexistence. Drogan grunted, the first acknowledgement of the moment passing even his hardened demeanor. "Don't get soft," he muttered. Elias didn't respond. Softness was irrelevant. Mercy was strength in disguise. Around them, the jungle seemed to breathe, as if recognizing the shift. Trees swayed gently, the scent of ozone fading, and distant roar screeches observing from afar remained at bay, curious rather than aggressive. For Elias, the lesson crystallized. Strength wasn't the ability to kill, it was the ability to choose when not to. Every action moving forward would be measured by understanding, not fear. And in that choice, he found the quiet satisfaction of agency. Minutes stretched, the world holding its breath. Then, with a sudden motion, the creature turned and vanished into the shadows of the thick foliage. Silence followed, complete and profound. The humans lowered their weapons fully, a collective exhale escaping lips that had been tight with tension. Elias turned to Kareth. The elite hunter's eyes were unreadable, but there was a glimmer of approval, perhaps even pride. "You didn't just survive," Kriff said, voice low, almost reverent. "You led." Elias shook his head slightly. He hadn't intended leadership, hadn't sought recognition. He had only chosen what he felt was right. Yet, in that choice, the bond between them, the humans, and the apex predators, the hunters and the hunted, was subtly redrawn. Zyra stepped closer, her expression softening. "You did it," she said quietly. Elias allowed himself a small nod. "We did it," he corrected. Every member of the crew, from Kareth to Drogan, shared a fleeting glance, a silent acknowledgement of shared understanding. The clearing, once a place of potential carnage, now held a strange serenity. The sun broke through the canopy, casting dappled light across the ground, highlighting the footprints of both humans and the creature alike. For Elias, this was more than survival. It was a revelation. Empathy, mercy, and understanding could be as powerful as any weapon, perhaps more so. The choice he had made in those tense, stretched seconds would echo in their future encounters. In every mission, in every decision. As they regrouped, Elias's mind wandered briefly to what the galaxy might make of such acts. Humans had endured, adapted, and survived against odds that would have broken others. And now, they had learned that true dominance was measured not by destruction, but by restraint, by knowing when to wield power and when to let it be. Kriff's voice brought him back to the present. "The path is clearer now," the hunter said. Elias nodded again, feeling the truth in those words. "And yet," he replied softly, "it's only beginning." Together, the crew moved out of the clearing, leaving the creature behind but carrying with them the weight of the choice made that day. The jungle, the battlefield, and even the stars beyond bore witness to a human who chose mercy and, in doing so, redefined what it meant to be strong. The station's corridors hummed with quiet activity, the usual clatter of boots on steel floors, muffled by the weight of anticipation. Elias moved slowly, deliberately, through the dim light, his body still aching from the missions that had pushed him past exhaustion. Every sound seemed magnified: the hiss of a vent, the clink of armor, the low murmur of voices in alien tongues. He had expected dismissal, derision, perhaps even skepticism. After all, he was human, the species the Varuun hunters had once mocked for weakness, for fragility. Yet, something in the air felt different. The crew gathered in the ceremonial hall, a vast chamber lined with banners depicting the apex predators they had tracked, hunted, and understood. At the center, Kareth waited, his posture rigid, but his presence commanding. The elite hunter's gaze swept over the gathered crew, and when it rested on Elias, there was no mockery, only recognition. Elias's chest tightened. This was unfamiliar territory. He had never sought acknowledgement, never craved acceptance among these hunters who lived for dominance and survival. Yet now, he felt it pressing upon him, a weight heavier than any physical burden he had carried. Kareth spoke, his voice low, deliberate, echoing slightly against the metal walls. "Humans endure, they adapt, they persist when all else fails. Elias Varn has proven this, and more." A silence fell. thick and reverent. Elias felt every eye on him, the scrutiny of hundreds of experienced hunters, waiting for the next words. Then, Kurth gestured toward a pedestal draped in ceremonial cloth. On it lay the sacred marks of the hunt blades, insignias, and etchings, used to signify honor and mastery among the elite. Elias's hands trembled slightly. He knew what this meant. Acceptance, recognition, a place among hunters he had never imagined joining. Kurth stepped forward, motioning for Elias to kneel. The ritual was simple yet profound. Each mark applied was a testament, not to power or skill alone, but to endurance, to understanding, to the quiet strength of persistence. Elias winced as the first etching touched his skin, the pain, sharp but fleeting. Yet, within that moment, he felt something deeper, validation. Memories flashed every struggle, every moment he had been ignored, every whisper of doubt from the crew. Drogan's sneers, Zyra's cautious glances, the countless near-death encounters with predators and mercenaries alike. Each scar, each lesson, each heartbeat had led to this moment. Kurth's voice cut through his thoughts. "I chose you from the beginning," the elite hunter admitted. "Not because you are human, because you embody what we value above all resilience and understanding. You are more than a hunter. You are a symbol." Elias's mind struggled to process the weight of those words. A human, chosen, marked, elevated among Varian hunters. It was impossible and yet undeniable. The ceremony continued, each mark searing a story onto his flesh, each one connecting him closer to the hunter's ethos. The pain was real, but so was the honor. Around him, the crew watched silently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to respect. Even Drogan, begrudgingly, lowered his eyes, the first sign of acknowledgement he had shown. After the final mark was applied, Elias rose. The hall was still. The air felt charged with quiet energy. Kurth stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "These marks," he said, voice firm yet reverent, "are more than symbols. They are a declaration. You have endured, persisted, and understood. You are a hunter in every sense." Elias allowed himself a slow, controlled breath. He didn't feel victorious. He felt seen, recognized. His identity, long uncertain and tested, was now etched into the flesh and ethos of an alien culture he had once believed impossible to join. Later, as the crew dispersed, Elias lingered. He traced the fresh marks with a finger, feeling both pain and pride. Each one told a story: the death-welled jungle, the silent predator, the mercenaries, the moment Kurth had declared him brother. The realization struck humans were feared not for brute strength or dominance, but for persistence, for the ability to endure, to adapt, to survive against all odds and still act with understanding. He glanced around the ceremonial hall, taking in the banners, the trophies, the legacy of hunters past, and he understood something profound. This was no longer just about survival or recognition. It was about identity. Elias Varn was no longer just human. He was a hunter, marked by choice, by struggle, by endurance, and in that quiet acknowledgement, he found a strange peace. Kurth approached again, eyes locked on him. "Remember," he said, "marks are not earned once and forgotten. They are lived, carried in every action, every decision. Today, you are marked. Tomorrow, you will define what it means to bear them." Elias nodded, the words sinking in. He understood now. Strength was not measured in firepower, speed, or claws. It was measured in persistence, resilience, and the choices made in the face of overwhelming odds. The galaxy would learn of humans, not through conquest or aggression, but through endurance and moral clarity. Elias's gaze drifted to the viewport. Stars glittering in the distance. Somewhere out there, other species, other hunters, other civilizations would come to know the quiet dominance of humanity. And he would carry the marks of that lesson with him, a permanent reminder that identity is forged in struggle, tempered by choice, and validated by those who truly understand. The ceremony ended, but Elias's journey had only just begun. Each step forward was guided by the marks etched into his flesh, a symbol of the human potential that could not be denied, a quiet declaration that endurance and understanding could. To find the strongest hunters in the galaxy, Elias Varn stood on the observation deck of the station, the stars stretching endlessly before him, glittering like distant promises. The hum of machinery and distant chatter of alien crews filled the air, but his mind was elsewhere. He had been through trials that tested every limit of endurance, strategy, and morality, yet the most astonishing change was not a battlefield victory. It was the shift in perception, the subtle yet unstoppable ripple that he had unknowingly set in motion. News of his deeds had spread faster than he could have imagined. Whispered stories, brief transmissions, fragments of reports. A human had endured the Varuun hunter's deadliest trials and earned the title brother. Aliens who had once laughed at humans now regarded them with caution, curiosity, and even respect. Across the station, crew members paused in corridors, eyes lingering as Elias walked by. Some whispered in amazement. Others consulted datapads, comparing the humans' feats to centuries of hunting records. No one could deny it. Humans had a resilience unmatched by most species, and Elias had not sought this. He had not aimed for recognition, nor had he attempted to prove superiority. He had simply endured, made the morally complex choices demanded of him, and persisted when others faltered. The station's communication network buzzed quietly, carrying encrypted transmissions across the sector. Captain Lirith of the Varuun elite fleet, a senior strategist known for pragmatism and ruthlessness, paused as a report came through. He read the summary and allowed himself a rare smile. The human persists where others fail. Interesting. Elsewhere, mercenary crews, observing the same transmissions, adjusted recruitment strategies. Discussions turned from questioning human fragility to actively seeking them for dangerous assignments. Knowing that these humans could survive trials lethal to many elite alien species, Elias's reflection on the stars was interrupted by Kareth's approach. The elite hunter's presence was commanding, yet there was a warmth that hadn't been there at the beginning. "They speak of you," Kareth said quietly, voice carrying both respect and caution. "Whispers, stories, transmissions. Your name is no longer your own. You carry the weight of humanity's potential." Elias exhaled slowly. "I didn't choose this," he said, voice low. "I didn't aim to change anything." Kareth tilted his head, eyes sharp. "Sometimes the greatest impact comes from endurance, from choices made quietly, without recognition. You are human. You act differently. You think differently. And that difference unsettles the galaxy." In the corridors, crew members now paused openly, some bowing slightly, a gesture of respect uncommon among the Varuun. The previously skeptical hunters were adjusting to the reality that humans weren't just another species, they were a force of quiet dominance. The idea wasn't intimidation through raw power, but through persistence, strategy, and the ability to make morally complex decisions under pressure. Elias felt a strange mix of pride and disorientation. He had survived ambushes, manipulated hunting strategies, faced mercenaries, and earned Kareth's trust as a brother. Yet the galaxy's perception shifted without him raising a blade or declaring war. The station's central data core pinged, displaying recent updates: human adaptability, endurance records, successful survival rates in hostile environments. Comparisons were made to Varuun elite training results, and humans, despite physical disadvantages, consistently outperformed expectations. In briefing rooms, fleet commanders now included humans in critical missions, not as support, but as primary operatives. Their unpredictability, once seen as a weakness, was now recognized as strategic advantage. Elias's inner monologue reflected on the irony. "I endured because I had to, not to prove superiority. And yet, the galaxy will remember humans for that very endurance." Outside, the stars stretched across the void, reflecting in the observation deck's glass. He imagined distant civilizations hearing the tales of a single human who had earned the title brother among alien hunters. He imagined fleets reconsidering their assessments of humanity, seeing not a fragile species, but one capable of quiet, patient, and intelligent survival. Kareth placed a hand on Elias's shoulder. "Your journey continues," he said. "You have changed perceptions, not by force, but by action. The galaxy will learn humans endure, humans adapt, humans persist." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon him. It was no longer just about survival, it was about embodying the quiet strength that had now become the human signature across the stars. A comm alert sounded, drawing attention from nearby crews. The message was brief but telling. Elite hunting teams from multiple sectors requested humans for recruitment, citing prior survival records and adaptability. His influence, unintentional yet undeniable, was spreading. In a quiet moment, Elias reflected on everything that had brought him here. The humiliations, the near-deaths, the mercenaries, the ethical choices, and the bonds formed with alien allies. Each had been a step on a path he had never planned, yet now he understood the gravity of his impact. The galaxy would learn of humans not because they sought to dominate, but because they endured where others could not. As the observation deck lights dimmed, Elias's gaze remained fixed on the infinite stars. A mixture of awe, contemplation, and quiet determination in his eyes. He realized the true power humans held, not through weapons or fear, but through persistence, resilience, and moral clarity in the face of overwhelming odds. Somewhere beyond the station, in the vastness of space, the stories of a human who had earned the respect of the galaxy's deadliest hunters traveled faster than light. Unknown fleets adjusted their strategies, alliances reconsidered, and whispers spread from one civilization to the next. And Elias, unknowingly, had become a symbol, living testament to the quiet dominance of humanity. The stars shimmered, indifferent yet reflective, as if acknowledging that a new chapter for humanity had begun. Elias exhaled, a sense of calm washing over him. The galaxy had learned, not because he fought for glory, but because he endured, survived, and acted with understanding. And in that endurance humans had claimed a place among the stars, not with violence or arrogance, but with quiet, undeniable strength.